when we talk about the solutions that Congress needs to have moving forward, I just think it's important for us to say that incrementalism is not helpful in this moment. It's not helpful for people to say, oh, well, we got something, so we might as well support it. We got a nickel, we got a dime in $1 trillion bill, so a nickel is more than nothing, so we should support it, is unacceptable.
That was Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez going on a bit of a fiery rant about Congress's inaction at helping regular people survive coronavirus. So right now, Congress is debating a $500 billion follow-up to the CARES Act. So now, the framework of that deal, which has been discussed over the last couple of weeks, includes a $350 billion for small business relief. So famously, the first small business relief program, the Paycheck Protection Program, has literally run out of money. So they're out of money, and there are actually a lot of big companies that have taken money from that fund that they didn't necessarily need, starving a lot of small businesses. So now this bill would add $350 billion to it. Now it would also add $75 billion for hospitals and $25 billion to scale up testing ahead of some states taking steps to reopen their economies, which I think can only be done with aggressive testing. So you need aggressive testing, and you need a demonstrable drop in new COVID-19 cases if you're going to even think about opening up the economy. That said, we're not there yet. Roughly about 3 million people in America have gotten tested so far. So we're not there. We're absolutely not there. So now that's some of the provisions. Now Democrats have also asked for billions more in funding for state and local governments and a 15% increase in the maximum food stamp benefit. Now, this does not involve any additional stimulus payments, just that we still have that $1,200 payment. And it doesn't involve any moratoriums on rents and mortgages. In fact, that wasn't even brought up. So that's what Nancy Pelosi and the Democrats are negotiating with the White House. Now, Trump and congressional Republicans are unlikely to approve of even any of the measures brought by Democrats. So right now, they're just talking about small business relief for extra funding for hospitals, and more testing. No more help for the American people. So that, of course, has AOC saying that if we're not going to help the American people, then why should I even support the bill? In fact, here's the rest of her statement where she explains why.
It's like putting a Band-Aid on an enormous wound. It's not going to help us. And the thing is that I would be amenable to accepting this kind of logic if Congress actually was in session and convening. But if you're going to say, and if we're going to say that this new bill is going to give us $5 and then Congress is going to peace out for another month-long recess, I'm here to say that that's not going to help our communities. And we have to make sure that we demand meaningful change and meaningful assistance for working families.
So now she talks about what would be meaningful change and meaningful assistance. And it's the idea that her and other members of the squad have come up with, giving a $2,000 UBI for at least until this crisis is over and perhaps a year after that. Not only that, $2,000 a month, but a moratorium on rents and mortgages, as well as an extra $1,000 per child. And that's, again, per month. Because the problem with that one-time $1,200 payment is that it's not going to be enough. That's literally a month of rent. And if you go to places like New York and LA and Seattle, where rent prices are incredibly high, it doesn't even cover the entirety of rent. And so what's going to happen the next month and the next and the next? What's going to happen to these people, right, who don't have adequate support from the government while the government continues to talk about more relief for corporations? I mean, here's the thing, right? So now mortgage companies have been talking about forbearance, right? So Now, if you don't pay your mortgage for several months, oh, don't worry, forbearance, right? At the end of that, you still have to pay the months that you missed. So that's not really a solution. Even if you're lucky enough to get back to work in a few months, right? Which experts are saying, actually, we might have to start or continue this social distancing until 2022. Unless we, get some sort of magical miracle treatment or vaccine or anything like that, we've got a long time to go before we can get back to any semblance of normal. Because, getting back to normal is basically impossible at this point. Well, if you're lucky enough to get back to work, you're not going to have that extra money lying around. So we're going to have an even bigger crisis when we're done because we don't adequately take care of our people while we're in the midst of this crisis. So you're going to go from one crisis to an even bigger crisis later. This is why we need a UBI. This is why we need a mortgage and rent freeze. Because if we don't, things are going to get incredibly bad. And she is right, 100%. We are far beyond incrementalism. It is a Band-Aid on a gushing wound. And look, incrementalism didn't work before, but because we were able to easily paper over the problems, like, oh no, there's a giant hole in the system, but we just put wallpaper over it, so it's fine, there's no hole. What are you talking about, right? But now that paper is gone, right? Coronavirus has exposed the system for what it is. Incredibly weak for workers and favored for the, and generally geared to favor the ultra wealthy. And you can no longer ignore the gigantic inequities of the system. More incrementalism is not going to solve the problem. And especially when it comes to, and this is more the point that she made, if you're going to come up with incremental solutions, why we can't go and discuss this in Congress because of social distancing, then what's the point of passing them? No, we should come up with a comprehensive package that includes help for regular people. That's the only reason. And if we're not going to do that, then what's the point? What's the point? If we're not going to solve the problems and we're not going to do something comprehensive, then I'm not gonna participate. And that's her message. And so she is so far taking a stand against this bill because it's not comprehensive and because it doesn't do anything to help the American people. And I hope her and other progressives continue to block this until we get some provisions in there to help the people. And I certainly hope that it's a UBI. But I think in order to do that, we've got to get Republicans on board. I think the only thing that they can react to right now is massive public shaming. Hey guys, hopefully you enjoyed that free video. Now I'm going to have to ask you a favor. Between the demonetization and the YouTube algorithm messing around with view counts, etc., we're having a hard time adjusting to the new YouTube reality, which is where you guys come in. See, we have a Patreon, patreon.com/TYTNation, set up to help us rely on you guys, the viewers, instead of big corporate ads. Look, you know the show. You know how I'm not in favor of big corporations anyway. So help us transition away from relying on the ad model to pay the bills and sign up to be a patron, patreon.com/TYTNation. That goes a long way to help us keep the lights on. And you guys will know that you're supporting independent progressive media.